Hi, welcome everyone. This is Miss Farah over here. You guys are here as a recording video, which I provided as a replacement class for our class yesterday, which was a public holiday. It was a very nice rest, I hope, for everyone. I had a good, nice rest with my family, and I hope you guys had a wonderful time resting at home as well. So let's get started with our class for today. Ladies and gentlemen, I shall be talking more about all of your assessment in the class, so I'm just going to skip this one. What we are going to focus on in our class today is mostly on writing argumentative essay. Now, I'm going to come back again on this table because I want everyone to have a look at this upcoming, the next assessment or the next thing tutorial that you have to complete, which will be next week on a Friday. So basically next week on Friday, everybody here has to complete one more assessment, and we've discussed about how in this course it's because there's no final exam, it's going to be like a lot of ongoing assessments. So I hope everyone here is ready for your next task, that is onto your first tutorial next week at 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Now in my class today, I shall be explaining about the structure of argumentative essay, and it's good in the sense that everybody here can come back again and refer back to my recording here when you want to create your argumentative essay, or when you want to revise for your tutorial next week. You can come back to this video and basically focus and to know more about your argumentative essay. So that's wonderful. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what we are going to look at in our class today will be mostly focusing on the writing or the written form of providing arguments. And that is also one of the biggest thing that we really want everyone here to achieve once you guys have graduated, or once you have completed your class and course, especially for this CRI2101 course. One of the key components that we really want everyone here to take away from the course is basically to be able to articulate and formulate your own argument. But in today's class, we will be looking at written form especially. Now, I have done quite an introduction on argumentative essay last week, and when it comes to argumentative essay, in our class today, we shall be looking at of um, the types of writing, sorry, the types of topics that they are for argumentative essay. And you will see that when it comes to topics for argumentative essay, it's focusing very, very much on actually the two sides of the story. Okay, so that's one big important thing, that in argumentative essay, it applies to topics that has two sides of the coin, two sides of two perspectives, essentially. So that is one of the important things about argumentative essay, and I shall be providing more details about topics for argumentative essay in a bit. Um, these are the things that I actually have covered in my class before. When we look at argumentative essay, you basically have to create, reinforce, and try to change your readers' beliefs and action. Now, it's something that's actually very hard to do because people come from different perspectives and different backgrounds, different culture, different prior knowledge, and it's really tough to be able to change people's belief or action. But even if you're able to create or even to make people understand your standpoint or your argument and somehow make quite a plausible argument, then it means that you're a very successful writer already. So that will be one of the main goals in writing argumentative essay. Now, when we talk about argumentative essay in linguistic perspective, in linguistic point of view, or as an English teacher, we can see that a lot of the marks are concentrated on the content itself rather than looking at the language. This is because we really want to see and we want to look at the quality of your arguments that you are providing to everyone here. That is why in argumentative essay, we focus on content and also on logic. All right, so you can see here content here 15 marks, language is 50 marks, and I actually have somehow briefed and tell you guys why language is also important, because in order for you to um, express your opinions, you somehow need a good language in order for it to be properly channeled. And language is actually the medium. But if you look at the overall, it's 15 out of 50. It's not much, but being able to have the good, strong language is also very, very good as well, because you're able to convince and convey the thoughts and also the arguments that you want to present. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, we shall be starting off with providing the general definition of argumentative essay. Now, we have different types of essays in the world. We have illustrative essay, we have cause and effect essay, we have process essay. To be fair, a lot more that I even haven't listed to any of you guys just now. So, but when it comes to argumentative essay, it is one specific type of essay that ask the student to do a few things, a few steps. And this is something that I think I mentioned in my previous class, a lot of students actually miss out on. Now, the first step that you have to do when writing an argumentative essay is to look at the topic and to investigate on the topic itself. This is commonly something that is not a lot of my students did. When I teach CRI, especially when I give them test paper, they immediately take, the test paper and immediately start writing, which is very confusing for me, because it means that they didn't even brainstorm their ideas first, which is to me quite mind blowing, because how do you start writing when you don't even know what kind of points that you really want to convey? Now, the second step you have to do is to collect, to generate, and to evaluate evidences. When it comes to argumentative essay, it's all about premises, premises, and premises. How good and acceptable your premises are, and how is it supporting your claim. That is the most important thing about argumentative essay, because by providing good and plausible evidences, that is the only way to make people convinced with your topic or your argument. Finally, once you have collected, generated, and even evaluated the evidence, by right now you should be able to see which point has, more bigger advantage, if you can say it. Now, let me explain all these three steps in a bit more simpler manner, if I can. So basically, when you have a test or when you have to do an argumentative essay, essentially what you have to do, the first thing is for you to basically look at the topic. Obviously, once you have looked at the topic, I want you guys to create a table. Now, the table has two columns. Now, the first column is agree, and the second column is disagree, right? So you would have a table like this. I'm not sure if you guys can look at my camera here. It's basically a table with agree and disagree on the right or left. Doesn't really matter which one. And then it will be nice if you can have the topic on top of the table here. Okay, so if you can write the topic on top of your table, that will be even nice, because that way you can actually brainstorm your idea even more. Now, once you have done this, ladies and gentlemen, this is where we're proceeding to the second step here, that is to collect, to generate, and also to evaluate evidence. So you have to go online and read whether or not, or what do you think is a good point for this. So a lot of students think that when it comes to argumentative essay or when it comes to online classes, they're very much scared to go online because they're scared to plagiarize, which is a good way, because if you don't have that common sense, it means that you're going to end up plagiarizing anyway. But you need to read what kind of evidence that they are outside there, so that you can back up your findings a little bit. But it doesn't mean that you have to copy word by word. What I'm saying is that I want you to know what are the good points and what kind of evidence that you can actually write. But I'm not saying that you should be copying word by word. Okay? Once you're done, I'm pretty sure you can list down at least, okay, I want you guys to list down at least 2 points for each one of agree and disagree. If you can list more, it will be even better. But at least 2 points for agree and 2 points for disagree. Now, this is a very, very crucial part, because later, once you guys want to start constructing your essay, you will probably come back to this brainstorming table and you will see that this is very, very helpful. Now, finally, once you're done, I want you to look at your evidences now and look at the points. Which one is more plausible, more acceptable for you guys? And once you want to start writing, it's always about that vulnerability. Your style when you're writing, which one speaks more volume, I'm sorry, which one speaks more to you, and you feel like this is something that you want to go with. Then you go with the position, that is where you say that you want to agree or disagree with the topic. Now, again, to determine whether or not you want to agree or disagree with a topic, you have to look at the evidence. Have a look at the evidence. Which evidence is more convincing to you? Which one has better evidence that you feel you can make people understand you more or agree with you more? Because at the end of the day, when it comes to argumentative essay, it's actually a very hard skill to acquire. There's to make people want to believe in you or to convince people with an idea or an argument. Okay, that's the whole point of argumentative essay. All right, so these are some of the important skills that you need to get or you need to have in order for you to successfully complete or have an argumentative essay. Number one is for you to study both sides of the issue. Now, if you guys follow this brainstorming table that I'm sharing with you guys in the class here, I'm pretty sure you should be able to do argumentative essay very, very easily. Now, the reason why you need to have both agree or disagree or both sides of the issue, it's because it's very, very important when you want to write your counter argument. When you want to write your counter argument, having this both issues, knowing both issues is super, super important. Now, the second skill that you need is to provide logical reasons and support with sufficient proof. Now, this is the key word here, sufficient proof. Do you think that it is enough for you to provide that kind of resources or source A or source B when you are trying to provide the claim? The third skill that you need to do is to identify the strengths and weaknesses for each point. Now, this is where you want to determine whether you want to agree or disagree with a topic by looking at the premises, looking at evidence, whether or not the evidence is strong enough for you to convince people. The next one is to conclude the argument. Again, in an argument, you need premises plus conclusion. Is essentially making sure that people understand what is the main idea, what is the claim that you want to put forward in your argument. The next skill is for you to be able to connect between your ideas. This is super important as well, especially when you're writing an essay. And in argumentative essay, you need to provide five paragraphs. And in each paragraph, there should be a clear transition between points. And if you follow, excuse me, if you follow the structure of argumentative essay that I have taught you guys on, it will be very easy for you to get marks in terms of organization and to be able to use good transitional words to help the ideas flow very naturally. The next one, again, I touch on the structure or the format. You need to make sure that you follow the structure and the format that I have shared with you guys because it's super important. Okay? Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about different types of argumentative essay. Now, when it comes to argumentative essay, as I mentioned, the topics have to be arguable or debatable. So essentially what it means is that there is no right or wrong answer. There shouldn't be any right or wrong answer. It's all a matter of how persuasive you are when you're writing your essay. And normally, when it comes to argumentative essay, we often talk about, or we often ask you to write uh, topics that are involving your current issues. There are three types of argumentative essay, or three types of questions or topics that we can ask you. The first one is what we call as question of fact. Second one is question of value. Third one is question of policy. When it comes to question of facts, it's looking at the truthfulness or the falsity of an assertion or a statement or a claim. Now, this can get a little bit confusing for some people because some people think when it's correct, it has to be absolutely correct. Now, we're going to look at how it could be debatable as well. Now, if you look at the list of questions here, which college basketball team has won the most games since 1990? Who was the first African American president? And how far is it from Malaysia to New York? So if you look at these list of questions, it's basically nothing to argue, right? So there is only right or wrong answers, which means that this doesn't apply to the first type of question of fact. Now, when it comes to argumentative essay, it wouldn't be this kind of questions because in argumentative essay, it has to be debatable. So the list of questions that we might ask you in your argumentative essay could be, will the economy be better or worse next year? Who will win the next World Cup? What will be the next advancement in smartphone technology? So questions like these are often debatable because it depends on the current issue, it depends on the knowledge of the person, what they know about the economy or what they know about football or even what they know about the latest smartphone technology. Is it the new facial recognition or is it something that involves camera or I have no idea. So all of these things depend on the person's knowledge in the field, and they can actually have a lot of things to argue. Now, some people might agree with the first topic that the economy will be better because Langkawi has opened and people can start going out and actually start, using or rebuilding the economy back again. So a lot of points to mention, but we have no idea as well. So there is no absolute or certainty in both sides. So it all depends on what you have read, basically. Now, if you look at the second here, who will win the next World Cup? So this is also depending on your knowledge about football. Probably you know that you know probably Cristiano Ronaldo has changed. I don't know, clubs is going to be good. I have no idea. So probably it depends on a new player coming in and you knew about it and you think that that country could win the next World Cup. So again, there is no right or wrong answer. It all depends on your power of persuasion and how much you actually can convey to your audience. The next one, ladies and gentlemen, what will be the next advancement in smartphone technology? Again, a lot of people might argue on the 5G or the 4G of it, or some people might argue the number of camera that they are. Now there's a lot of cameras these days. So we have no idea. I know that Samsung has released a very nice flip phone, and I think that's sick. It's awesome. I think that's really, really awesome. I haven't felt like I want to buy Android for so long, but when I look at the design of it, I feel like, oh my god, I really feel like I want to buy it. But yes, so when it comes to all of these questions, if you look at it, it's very, very debatable. It all depends on you, how much you know, and how can you make people want to agree with you with the topic. Now, when it comes to question of fact, it's very similar to compare and contrast essay. But okay, in argumentative essay, you only argue in one view. You basically want to prove that this is what you want to say. Okay. All right, so the second type of questioning is what we call as question of value. Now, when it comes to question of value, it's always about a question of worth, rightness, morality, and so on and so forth of an idea of an action. So we try to make judgment whether or not something is right or something is wrong, something is good, something is bad, something is fair, or is it unfair for some people. So again, we want to discuss on the types of question. So if we have questions like this, what are the scientific methods of cloning or what are the laws about cloning in different countries? So if you look at the questioning here, you will notice that the questions can only have one absolute answer. So there are like one specific answer to this. which is not debatable. So these are not the types of questions that we might ask you when we ask you to write argumentative essay. But we can ask you these questions like, is it morally justifiable to clone human beings? Is it ethically acceptable to clone human cells in effort to cure diseases such as AIDS and cancer? So if you have such questions, then it will be acceptable for you to write something because there is more things for you to debate on. Okay? Finally, we have questions of policy. When it comes to question of policy, it's a type of questioning that we want to see whether or not something should be done or should not be done. So when it comes to question of policy, it always goes with the word should. That is how you know it's question of policy. Not only that, when it comes to question of policy, it has to affect on a sovereignty. It means that it needs to have like a power, authority. Okay, so it could be like a country, it could be like a jurisdiction of an institution. Inti students should go back to campus very soon. So that is a question of policy. All right, so it needs to involve a certain jurisdiction, like a country, an institution, or as such. Now, these are some of the examples of question of policy. Should candidate X be the next mayor? Should prostitution be made legal? Now, we are not, this is a type of question of policy because of the word legal here. Okay. But if we say, should prostitution be acceptable in the society, then it becomes question of moral. Okay. What steps should be taken to ensure every citizen receives good health care? So these are some of the examples of question of policy when it comes to argumentative essay. All right. Now, the next one, ladies and gentlemen, is I really want to focus on the writing that when you're practicing your writing, it's important for you to segregate between what you think is correct and facts. So, facts are something that is proven to be true. By all means, you read it in the newspaper or you read it in reliable journal articles or you read somewhere in an article, reliable websites. So those are what we call as facts. But opinion is what you think. It's based on personal belief that you probably do not have strong enough evidence for it. So this is a very important skill when it comes to argumentative essay. Okay, so I want to give you guys an example to look at example of how you can write facts and also opinion. So if you look at facts here, it's always going back again on the source that you got it from. Now, you know what? It would be even better if you can actually provide, okay, provide, we're calling it in-text citation. Okay, so this is where you provide the name of the author. Okay, it's the last name of the author. Okay, and the year it's published. Okay, so here, this is an example of how you can actually properly give credit to the actual author. So in order for it to be a fact, it has to be proven to be true. How do you prove something to be true? By reading or quoting something that was done based on research. So you can see how I write here, the evidence, while still thin, suggests that many e-cigarette users hoping to kick the habit use e-cigarettes as a safer alternative to tobacco. So here we can see that I am referring back again on the evidence. So what I'm saying is that it doesn't come from me, it comes from the evidence in which I have read. Okay, so I want to make it even more clear by mentioning the source that I actually read it from by crediting the author here, Shamsuddin 2021. Shamsuddin is the last name of the author, and 2021 is the year it's published. So, for example, research from Shamsuddin 2021 also suggests that e-cigarettes may be better at helping to sustain smoking cessation than pharmaceutical products like nicotine patches or gums. Okay, so when you refer back to the readings or the evidences, it means that it's something that is factual. Now, the next thing to segregate is the opinion base itself. So, personal opinion that is not based on any kind of reading is your own personal opinion. So, if you look at this is an example of an opinion. You would see that this has no reference back to any kind of sources. So, when you write this in your argumentative essay, it's less plausible. People are not convinced because people know that this is indeed your own personal belief. It's not based on evidence. So you should not do this. Okay, you should always go back to the evidence, making sure that you provide the evidences, ample enough of evidences for you to actually um, refer back or to convince people on the writing itself. Okay, so this is an example of when you're providing opinion. Emotion should not rule out harm reduction, even if eradication of smoking is the ultimate goal. Banning vaping in public won't help. Instead, e-cigarettes should be regulated by Food and Drug Administration as products sold or distributed for use to reduce harm of the risk of tobacco-related diseases. So you can see here that it's much more on providing suggestion and what this person said. So if you want to make it more convincing, you need to go back and to cite and refer back to the evidences. Okay, just like on top here. So in your argumentative essay, it's super important that you guys, okay, go back and actually provide the facts. Okay, do not just give your own opinion about this. Okay, all right. So, ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to structure of argumentative essay, I'm going to quickly recap again on the structure of argumentative essay. I believe that I actually have done this in our class previously, but I'm just going to recap once again on the structure of argumentative essay. Okay. So the structure of argumentative essay, there are 5 different paragraphs that you have to complete. The first paragraph is the introduction. Second paragraph is argument one. Third paragraph is argument two. Fourth paragraph is what we call as counter argument. And fifth paragraph is the conclusion. Now, in your introduction, you need to write hook, building sentences, and thesis statement. Now, what is a hook? Hook is a type of it's the first sentence that you want to make sure that people are interested in reading more about your essay. So there are actually 3 ways for you to do hook. Number one, you can ask a question. Again, ask rhetorical question that can make people want to think about it. Number two, you can provide a quotation. Somebody said something about the topic. And finally, you can even start your essay by providing a statistic or a fact that is shocking, that makes people want to read more about your essay. The next thing that you have to write is building sentences. What is a building sentences? Basically, in building sentences, this is where you provide background information, context about your topic, and also providing why do you think it's important for you to debate on this. Why is it important? What is the need for us to argue about these 2 topics or these 2 sides of the topic? Finally, then only you provide your thesis statement. Now, in this thesis statement, when providing thesis statement, this is when you have to establish whether you agree or disagree with the topic. In your thesis statement, you should only provide 2 points. 2 points only in your thesis statement. And these 2 points are actually from argument one and also argument two. Now let's take a look at body paragraph now. In your body paragraphs, now I'm referring this to argument one and also argument two. These 2 paragraphs essentially have the same components in it. You need to start with a claim. This is a topic sentence. Then you need to give three premises or three supporting details, three evidences, and finally one concluding statement to conclude back again on your claim. All right, so the fourth paragraph is, or the paragraph, main body paragraph three. Okay, don't get confused. It's paragraph number four, but it's the third main body paragraph. Okay, main body one, main body two, and main body three. Okay, but it is indeed the fourth paragraph, which is the counter argument paragraph. Now, remember when I asked you guys to write a table of agree and disagree, right? So if you decided that you want to agree with the topic, this is when you need to have the point from disagree and put it in one single paragraph. Now, counter argument is basically a set of paragraph that is designed to prove that your opposition or people who have the opposite view is flawed, not a good argument. So it's your chance to say that you're really good at this. Okay, that is why we're calling it as counter argument. How do you do counter argument? You need to start with firstly counter argument, which is the opposition's claim. Now, if you agree with the topic, you have to mention what is the first point in which people disagree with the topic. I know that it sounds weird for you to mention why people disagree with the topic. Then your first premise should explain on why they disagree, basically supporting the opposition's claim. I know it's weird. I know it's weird, guys. Then you have to provide a refutation. Now, basically, a refutation is where you want to say, nah, 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 these counter argument is bad argument. You're saying that even though that this is it, but this is a bad argument. Why? So you have two premises or two evidences to mention or to refute to say, this is bad argument. This is not good. Okay. Finally, you have to provide one concluding sentence. Now, I want you guys to have a look at the conclusions here. In your conclusion, you need to firstly restate your thesis statement. Now, in the introduction, your thesis statement only consists of 2 points. But in your conclusion, you need to summarize your 2 points and also your counter argument. Then you can provide some general statement, and finally, you can give your recommendations in your conclusion. Okay, so I want you guys to have a look at an examples here. Okay, this is an example of an introduction. I want you guys to pause this video and basically look at the components in this particular paragraph. Now, this is designed for introduction. Have a look at how I do my introduction. I want everyone here to pause this video and I want you to look at these components and to see whether or not you'll be able to understand what's the whole point of me in this whole writing this paragraph. All right, so when you look at the first sentence here, this is a hook. Now, what I use for the hook is basically providing a fact or a statistic about when was animal first used in the world of healthcare. It was in 1789 by a British physician because it's trying to use animal to test the vaccine, whether it's okay or not to use the vaccine. Then I have my building sentence. Okay, so building sentence is basically providing some background information about the topic. Then my next building sentences, I provide some information why people have two sides or why people agree or disagree with the topic. Now, here you will know that the topic is about animal testing, and you can see that some people believe that animal testing is good or acceptable because if we don't use animal testing, more people will be suffering with more diseases and people could not find new vaccines. But okay, some people disagree because they feel like uh, they feel like animals you know it's also hurting another life. Okay, if you do that, so basically that is also another point from the other side of the story. The next one is for me to give a thesis statement. Remember, in this thesis statement, you could only write 2 points. You have to highlight what are your 2 points in your thesis statement. Therefore, this essay will outline two advantages of animal testing, which are number one, recovery of new drugs, and number two, economical market. So please remember, your thesis statement should only be one single point. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's move to body paragraph now. So here I'm referring to argument 1 and also argument 2. So in your argument 1 and also argument 2, you need to write a topic sentence, three premises, and also one concluding statement. Now let's talk about premises now. Now premises essentially means evidences. What could be evidences? Number one, it could be a fact. Number two, it could be statistics, numbers. Number three, it could be authoritative reports. Okay, reports from police department or something. Okay, supporting details should not be feelings, irrelevant examples, not related to your topic. Oversimplification is where you could not summarize it, or you explain something in too simple. Hasty generalization or stereotypes, and finally unreliable or false evidences. Okay, or even fallacies. Now we're going to talk more about fallacies as we progress in the course, but since we're not introduced with fallacies yet, so but then it's okay. All right, so don't worry, ladies and gentlemen. I also will be providing an example so that you guys are a bit more aware on how and sample of how to do things. Okay, the next one is counter argument paragraph. Now, when it comes to counter argument, this is where a lot of the trouble comes in because I believe that a lot of students get confused with counter argument. Now, the first thing is for you to remember counter argument is what your opponent may say about your stand. So if you agree with the topic, what why do people disagree with the topic essentially? What is the opposite or what is the opponent? Why do they say about what they believed in? Or if you disagree, you're going to look at why people agree with this. Okay. Refutation is also another fancy word in this paragraph. It's basically how you defend your stance, how you defend your own arguments. Okay, so first, in counter argument, you need to start with the claim from opposition. And then you have to explain on the claim. Then you have to start refuting the claim and provide two premises to support your refutation. Finally, you can have a concluding sentence. Now let's take a look at here. I want you guys to pause this video and I want you to read this through and see the justification of how I do my counter argument paragraph. Okay, let's take a look at here. Many people argue that animal testing is cruel. So this is the opposite of what I stand for. I believe that animal testing is okay and acceptable, but the opposite of people who disagree with me, the counter of it, is people argue that animal testing is cruel. Okay, and then the next premise is for you to explain on the counter argument. They believe that animal testing is unkind and unethical. So this one, the first premise is supporting your counter argument. Okay, you need one sentence to actually explain on what it means to have this point. All right, the next one is your refutation. However, it will be much more cruel to test new drugs on children or people, or to let people die because there's not much information about the drugs. Okay, so this is my refutation. Then I provide two premises to support my refutation. So I say legalization in most countries sets standards for animal treatment, and laboratories have guidelines to prevent cruelty. So there's no such thing as cruelty. Number two, I say, for example, in Malaysia, any research has to undergo an ethical clearance to ensure that animal is not treated badly in experiments. Okay, then I provide my concluding statement. Therefore, the argument that animal testing is cruel and unethical is not valid. Okay, so that is how I end my counter argument. All right, so let's move now to conclusion. Now, when talking about conclusion, you need to start with restate of thesis statement. Then you have 3 points, which are your argument. Sorry, in your thesis statement, restate of thesis statement, you need to summarize. You need to summarize your argument one, argument two, and also your counter argument. Let's take a look at an example of this. In conclusion, although many argue that animal testing is unethical and cruel, but the benefits of animal testing, which include cheaper option and new discovery, outweigh the disadvantage. Okay? Animal testing is needed in the world of we live in today so that we can have more advancement, particularly in medical field. However, it is still our responsibility to manage the animal in our care and to follow ethical guidelines that has been given by authorities. So finally, this is the recommendation of the whole essay. Okay, so basically, these are the things that we have discussed in argumentative essay. Um, in order for me to take your attendance taken, in order for you to take your attendance taken, once you're done listening to my lecture today, I need you guys to complete one more blackboard task. Okay, it's based on the three types of questions in argumentative essay. So earlier in my lecture today, I talk about question of fact, question of value, and also question of fact, value, and also question of policies, and I want you to give me examples for each type of questions. Okay, so please try to complete the task. Once you have done both, I'll be able to check it via my Blackboard, the course analytics, and then I'll take your attendance as taken to replace yesterday's class. Thank you all very, very much for joining my class today. Please do have a good rest, and I'll see you guys in class later. Bye.